Have you ever wondered if swimming could have more meaning than just fun and exercise? Many Christians ask themselves, does the Bible accept or condemn swimming? You might feel unsure, guilty, or even anxious about a simple activity you enjoy, worrying if it aligns with your faith. The good news is there's a clear principle in Scripture that can guide you. By understanding it, you'll finally know how to approach swimming or any daily activity with confidence, ensuring that your actions reflect your faith and honor God in every choice you make. Swimming is one of the most loved activities around the world. On a hot day, jumping into the water feels refreshing, almost like freedom itself. Families gather at the beach, kids laugh at pools, and athletes push their limits through training. For many, swimming is more than just moving in water. It is joy, fun, and even a way to forget worries for a while. It feels natural, almost as if we were created to enjoy it. But there's something deeper about swimming that we often overlook. Water is not just a background for fun. It is part of life itself. We drink it, we need it to live, and it surrounds us everywhere. In creation, water plays a central role, reminding us how powerful and essential it is. When we swim, we are not only exercising, we are stepping into something that God designed with purpose. This makes us wonder, could such a simple, enjoyable activity also carry spiritual meaning? If the Bible speaks about water with great importance, then maybe swimming deserves a closer look. Most people think swimming is just a harmless activity, a way to stay cool, exercise, or have fun. But for Christians, it raises a surprising question. What does the Bible actually say about swimming? At first, it seems like a simple or even silly concern. After all, Scripture doesn't explicitly mention pools, beaches, or strokes in the water. Yet the Bible does speak about choices, actions, and habits that reflect the heart, no matter how small or ordinary they may seem. Even everyday activities can have spiritual meaning. Swimming might appear innocent, but it can also involve pride, modesty, or attention to appearance. It can shape attitudes, influence behavior, and even affect how we relate to others. For believers, this makes it worth pausing and thinking carefully about the activity. This overlooked question challenges us to look deeper. Could swimming, something so natural and enjoyable, carry lessons or warnings we haven't considered before? Water is more than just a natural element in the Bible. It carries deep spiritual meaning. From the very beginning of creation, water is part of God's design, symbolizing life, cleansing, and even judgment. Rivers, seas, and rain appear throughout Scripture, not just as background scenery, but as important symbols of God's power and purpose. Think of baptism, where water represents spiritual cleansing and new life. Or the story of Noah and the flood, where water brings both destruction and a fresh start. Even the crossing the Red Sea shows God using water to guide, protect, and test his people. Each example shows that water is never ordinary in God's eyes. It is powerful, symbolic, and often transformative. This makes swimming an interesting activity to consider. If water in Scripture is tied to such important spiritual lessons, could engaging with it in swimming carry hidden meaning or opportunities for reflection that most people never notice? The Bible shows us that water is never just water. It often carries God's plan and purpose. One of the most famous examples is the crossing of the Red Sea. God parted the waters to save his people and defeat their enemies. In that moment, water was a symbol of protection, guidance, and divine power. Baptism is another powerful example. When someone is baptized, water represents spiritual cleansing, rebirth, and commitment to God. It's a visible sign that a life has been changed, symbolizing both death to old ways and new life in faith. These stories remind us that water is deeply significant in Scripture. Even simple interactions with water, like swimming, can carry echoes of these powerful lessons. When Christians step into water, it can serve as a moment to reflect, consider their faith, and recognize the spiritual symbolism that God places in everyday life. Water in the Bible often represents cleansing and renewal. From ritual washings to baptism, it is a symbol of washing away sin and starting fresh. This shows that even something as simple as water carries a spiritual lesson about purification and spiritual growth. Swimming may seem purely physical, but for believers, it can serve as a reminder of these lessons. When we move through water, it's easy to think of fun or exercise, but the act can also inspire reflection on our hearts and choices. Are we letting God cleanse our thoughts, intentions, and actions in every part of life, even in moments of leisure? The symbolism of cleansing also challenges Christians to consider how they approach everyday activities. Swimming, while ordinary, can be an opportunity to remember God's work in our lives, reminding us that nothing is truly separate from spiritual truth. Water in the Bible is not only about cleansing, it can also represent judgment. The story of the flood shows how God used water to bring both justice and renewal. Entire nations were affected, and the water carried consequences for choices and actions. This demonstrates that water holds power and significance far beyond its physical use. Even swimming, though a simple activity, reminds us that water is connected to deeper spiritual truths. It can symbolize respect for God's power and a reminder that every action has meaning. The Bible encourages believers to consider the heart behind their activities, teaching that even ordinary things can reflect values, character, and spiritual awareness. This dual symbolism, cleansing and judgment, challenges Christians to think carefully. Swimming may seem innocent, but the Bible shows that water is layered with lessons about life, responsibility, and God's authority. At first glance, swimming looks like a simple recreational activity, fun, healthy, and relaxing. But for Christians, it can carry more meaning than meets the eye. The Bible shows that even ordinary things can reflect spiritual truths, and water, in particular, has deep symbolic value. Swimming may seem purely physical, but it can remind us of life, cleansing, and even judgment. It can challenge our humility, test our patience, and encourage reflection on our motives. Are we enjoying the water simply for pleasure, or are we also aware of the spiritual lessons it can teach? This perspective doesn't mean swimming is wrong. It remains a safe, joyful activity. However, seeing it as more than recreation allows believers to approach it thoughtfully, aligning even leisure with faith. By considering water's biblical symbolism, Christians can turn everyday moments into opportunities for spiritual awareness and growth. Swimming can raise questions about modesty and pride, even if it seems harmless. How we dress in the water, how much attention we seek, and how we carry ourselves can reflect our hearts and intentions. For Christians, these are not trivial concerns, because Scripture encourages humility and respect in all areas of life. While enjoying the activity is natural, it is important to reflect on whether our choices draw attention to ourselves or honor God. Even in fun or relaxation, pride can subtly influence our actions. Swimming may seem like just exercise or leisure, but it can reveal attitudes, priorities, and values we might not notice otherwise. By considering modesty and pride, believers are reminded that every action, even swimming, can carry spiritual lessons. This awareness helps align recreation with faith, turning simple enjoyment into a chance for reflection and personal growth. The Bible doesn't forbid swimming, but it provides principles that guide every believer in daily life. Scripture teaches that our actions, no matter how small or ordinary, reflect our hearts and values. Swimming may seem purely physical, but it can also serve as an opportunity to apply these principles. Believers are encouraged to consider motives, modesty, and humility in every choice. Even simple activities can reveal priorities and character, showing whether our hearts are aligned with God's purpose. Swimming, therefore, becomes more than recreation. It becomes a chance to practice self-awareness and spiritual reflection. By following biblical principles, Christians can enjoy water activities without guilt, while remaining mindful of their faith. These principles help guide every action, turning ordinary moments into opportunities to honor God and grow spiritually, even in the simplest forms of leisure. After exploring swimming and its spiritual significance, it's time to reveal the verse that can guide every Christian in this simple yet meaningful activity. While the Bible doesn't mention swimming specifically, it offers principles for how we should live, think, and act in everything we do. Here it is. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 31. This verse reminds believers that even ordinary choices, like swimming, carry meaning. It encourages reflection on motives, actions, and habits, ensuring that everything we do, even in leisure or recreation, honors God. Swimming can be fun, healthy, and refreshing, but this passage asks a deeper question. Are our hearts and choices aligned with God's purpose? By keeping this verse in mind, Christians can approach every activity thoughtfully, turning even simple moments in water into opportunities to glorify God and grow spiritually. Did you enjoy the video? Then make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest Holy Bible revelations every week.